So one thing about firewall is that anytime you join firewalls to a network, firewall is going to block all the entire network. There won't be any traffic going out and there won't be any traffic coming in. So if you put a firewall on a network that is communicating to the internet before, firewall is going to disable everything. So it is left for you to now know how to configure the firewall in a way to allow the traffic based on whatever you want. So the function of a firewall is to block any any incoming traffic and any outgoing traffic. So we can tell our firewall that anytime anybody on our LAN wants to browse to the internet, please help us allow the traffic. And we can actually tell the firewall anything from internet coming to our LAN, help us to block it. So firewall is going to be doing all those work based on the policy that you have already assigned on it. So firewall is just like a gate man on a building that can restrict access to the building and grant access to the building. So what we're going to do now, the first thing we achieve is that we set up our firewall. The next thing we want to achieve now is how to configure this firewall to allow people on the LAN to have internet access. So I'm going to go back to my VMware. So I'm go back to my VMware. So once I'm in my VMware, here I have a Windows 10 here. So here is a Windows 10. Inside this Windows 10, before I power it on, I need to go to edit virtual machine settings. And I go to the network adapter. So once I'm in a network adapter, I'm going to put this Windows 10 from NAT to LAN segment. So this Windows 10 is connecting to the firewall LAN segment, and we're going to choose that particular segment that we are using. And I'm going to click on OK. So once I click on OK, I can go ahead and power on this virtual Windows 10. So we'll go ahead and power on the virtual Windows 10. So let this guy come up. Let this virtual Windows 10 come up. All right. So when I log in into this virtual Windows 10, the next thing we need to do is to go back to our Fortigate firewall. So go back to our Fortigate firewall. So once we're in our Fortigate firewall, go back to that particular port number 2. I'm going to double click on it. So going to double click on the port number 2. So you double click on it, or you click on edit. So let's wait for this guy to click on edit. Click on edit. I'm coming. Let me refresh this FortiGate. So I'm going to refresh the FortiGate. Okay. So once we're in the port number 2, what we want to do, all those things that we are doing on our CLI, you can actually come to this place and use your hand to assign whatever you want to assign to them. So where we are heading to here is just drag down to where we have, this guy must be on manual. So drag down on your FortiGate firewall, drag down to where we have a DHCP server. So we want to make this particular port as a DHCP server so that it's going to be assigning IP address to that particular Windows 10. So when we enable the DHCP server, it's asking you what are the address range that you want the IPs to start from. Here will be 10.10.10.2. to 10.10.10.254. So after we specify the address range, we need to drag down and you click on OK. Okay, it's going to ask you for the net mask. Net mask is going to be 255.255.255.0 and you're going to click on OK. So this means that we are making that particular port number 2, we are making it as a DHCP so that it's going to be assigning IP to all the system connecting to the interface. So the next thing we need to do is to come to this Windows 10 and we need to put this Windows 10 on DHCP. So we goes to the Windows 10, we goes to the CMD, and we're going to type ncpa.cpl. So we need to put this Windows 10 on DHCP so that it's going to get IP address automatically. Okay, so once we put it on DHCP, let's check the IP of this Windows 10. So the command we're going to be using is a ipconfig.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
So I'm going to type the command again, ipconfig, and we hit enter key. So as you can see right now, the Windows 10 is getting 10.10.10.2. The Windows 10 is getting 10.10.10.2 and the default gateway is the 10.10.10.1. So like what I explained to you by default, anytime that you join firewall to a network, firewall is going to block everything on the network. So it is left for you to go ahead and configure your policy in a way that the people on the LAN will be able to have internet access. So same thing as this Windows 10 here right now. This Windows 10 is not going to have internet access. For example, if I type in google.com, let's check maybe we have internet on this Windows 10. Ping google.com and we hit enter key. So you're going to see that this guy is not able to locate who is google.com. This guy can only ping the default gateway. So if I ping our port number 2, ping 10.10.10.10.2, no, 10.1, which is our port number 2, you're going to see that this pinging is going to be going. But let's try to ping the internet. Let's try to ping our WAN IP. Ping 192.168.0.124. That is our WAN IP. So you're going to see that this system is not able to ping the internet. It's not able to have internet access. So it is left for us to configure a policy in a way that this system is now going to be browsing. So how can we configure the policy? We need to go back to our firewall. We goes to our firewall. Once we are in our firewall, so we're going to where we have a policy object. So once we click on policy object, you're going to click on a firewall policy. So once we click on firewall policy, we have a default policy on this firewall, which is the implicit deny all. By default, this firewall is going to deny all traffic on the network. So we have a implicit deny all. So the next thing is left for us to configure a policy so that our Windows 10 will be able to browse the internet, which our employee system. So if we want to configure the policy, we'll click on create new. So click on create new. So we'll wait for this thing to come up. So click on create new. So let's wait for this guy to come up. Let me log in back. So let me refresh from here. Okay, so I'm going to click on create new. So once I click on create new, it's going to ask me what is the name I want to name my policy. So I'm going to name it LAN to WAN, which means that I want to allow people on LAN to go to WAN. I'm naming it LAN to WAN, and the schedule will be always they should be having internet access every time, and the action must be on a accept. Here now asking me that what is the incoming interface? When people on my LAN wants to go to WAN, which is the internet, the incoming interface is going to be the LAN interface where the traffic is coming from. So I will expand this place. I'm going to choose the LAN port 2. And the outgoing will be where they are heading to. So the outgoing will be my WAN, which is the port number 1. So here now asking me that what is the source and destination? So the source is going to be my port number 2, which is my LAN. So if I drag down, you're going to see that we have a LAN port number 2 here. I'm going to click on the port number 2 and the destination where they are heading to. Here now asking me for users and group. I haven't created any users and group. I'm going to omit that options. So I'm going to where I have destination. So where are they going to? So here I want to show you something here. If this guy asking me for a destination, if I come here and choose port number 1 as a destination, this thing telling me that it is only that particular port number 1 my employees will be able to communicate to. So if I choose port number 1, it is only the port number 1 my employees will be able to communicate to. So for example, if I come here, let me check, maybe I'm able to see port number 1. I'm not seeing it. I can create port number 1. So let me create port number 1. The name is a 1 and the interface is a 1 port number 1. And what is the IP of the network of the port number 1? 192.168.0.0. For example, if I come to this Fortigate Firewall, if I use my command to get my IP again, which is a get system interface physical, you can see that the IP of my particular port number 1 is a 192.168.0.124. So their network will be is 0.0. So that's the reason why I specify is 0.0, and here will be /24. Will be /24, or you put it on a 255.255.255. So after that, I can click on OK, and you click on OK, and you click on close. So this thing is telling us that I only want my people on a LAN to be able to communicate to only my WAN, which is the port number 1. So if I click OK here, okay, here asking me for the services. So I can allow all services here. I'm going to drag down to where we have all services. So drag to where we have all. So once we choose on all, you're going to click on OK. Okay, so once I click on OK, you're going to see the policy that I just created now, which is the LAN to WAN. So once we created the policy, we'll go to where we have the UTME. I will click on this little box here. I will go to where we have a UTME and I'm going to put it on all. So click on apply. All right. So once I create the policy, the next thing is let's go and confirm. Maybe our Windows 10 are now able to communicate to the port number 1, which is our 1. So I will go back to my Windows 10. Here, when we are pinging this particular one, we are getting request timeout. But if I go ahead and ping now, immediately you're going to see that we are able to communicate to the port number one based on the policy that we just created. So you're going to see that our Windows 10 is able to talk to the port number one. But in the first place, we are not able to communicate when we are seeing request timeout. But after we created the policy, we are now able to communicate to that particular port number one. So the next thing I want to show you here, let's assume that I want to ping google.com. So if I ping google.com here, let's see, maybe I will be able to browse to internet. So here, I ping google.com. So as you can see that when I'm pinging google.com, we are getting request timeout. When I'm pinging google.com, we are getting request timeout. The reason why we get request timeout is that if I come back to my firewall, if I click on this policy and I click on this policy, the reason why we are getting request timeout is that we are telling that the source is from the LAN port 2 and they should go to where? Only one, which is the port number 1. So that's the reason why we are getting requested timing out there, because we only said that our people on a LAN should only be able to communicate to our port number 1 only. If you want them to be able to have internet to every website on the internet, you need to come here. Instead of you to be choosing one there, you need to click on all. All means that you want them to have internet to anywhere on the internet. But anytime you are specifying a port number 1, it is only that port number 1 they will be able to ping. So that's the reason why I'm not able to ping google.com. So I need to click on all instead of me choosing one. So once I click on all, I will click on OK. So once I click on OK, let me go ahead and ping Google again. Let's check. Maybe we'll be able to browse to Google. So go back to the Windows 10. So here we are seeing request timing out. So if I try to ping Google again, as you can see that immediately the pinging is now going. So you can see that immediately we are able to reach google.com, but in the first place, we are not able to reach the website. So you can now reach any website. You can browse to facebook.com. Anytime you will be getting the reply based on the policy that we just configured on the firewall. So this is how you can create a policy in firewall and to allow people on your LAN to be able to have an internet access. So based on what we explain now,